Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 12 of the final and last episode in the series Sex Work with the Butterfly Princess and Amy Taylor. In this last episode, we're going to discuss the issue of consent and personal relationships. So what do sex workers consent to, and how does the work of sex workers and the sex industry impact the personal relationships of the sex worker outside of their work? So, ethics and consent in the sex industry. We're going to discuss the ethical considerations around the work, focusing on issues of consent and exploitation. Ethics and consent in the sex industry are complex issues that require careful consideration and balanced policies, respecting the autonomy, ensuring genuine consent, and preventing exploitation are key principles for ethical practices. Advocacy for legal reforms, access to resources, and the inclusion of the voices of sex workers in policy making are crucial steps towards a more just and equitable approach to the work of sex work. By addressing these ethical considerations, societies can better support our rights and well-being. These ethics of the work of sex work are deeply intertwined with issues of consent, autonomy, and exploitation. These considerations are crucial for understanding the moral and practical demoralisation of the industry, and for developing policies that respect and protect the rights of the sex workers. So consenting our work. So consent doesn't just apply to the work of sex work and the industry. Consent applies to every aspect in life. So when you're consenting, for example, when you're consenting to go on holiday with a friend, for example, you're consenting to go on that holiday with them. When you're offered, someone offers you to buy a drink, a coffee, for example, you're consenting for that person to allow you to buy you that drink. It's the same with sex in the sex industry. Consent is vital, and these are some of the issues. So coercion and exploitation situations of coercion, whether through physical force, psychological pressure, or economic necessity, undermine genuine consent. Recognising and addressing these factors is essential for ethical practices, and me and Amy have already discussed, when consenting and the pressure to do things gets mixed up. We've heard about the sex worker who was murdered by a client because of a pay dispute that's currently ongoing, but that client is now in prison. We've heard about, pimps making, their workers do things that they don't particularly want to do. They're just a few examples. And this in turn creates sort of a power imbalance. So power dynamics between the sex worker and the client, or between the sex workers and third parties such as pimps or managers, as we've just discussed, can complicate success. Ensuring that we have the autonomy to make decisions free from undue influence is critical. Autonomy in sex work, empowerment and choice. Voluntary engagement. Many sex workers choose to work in the sex work industry voluntary and view it as a legitimate form of work. Respecting the autonomy means acknowledging the rights of the sex workers to make decisions about their bodies and the work they want to carry out with the client or the manager or whatever. Economic independence. The work of sex workers can provide significant financial benefits, as we discussed in the episode about the economics of sex work, and independence for many individuals, allowing sex workers to support themselves and their families. Recognising our economic agency is important for respecting the autonomies and privacy. Supporting autonomies. Legal protections ensuring that sex workers have legal protections and labour rights help to safeguard their autonomy. This includes the right to work in safe conditions, the ability to refuse clients, and access to legal recourse in cases of abuse or exploitation. So, like in any form of work, like we've discussed, if you work in an office-based job and your manager has made an inappropriate comment to you about for whatever reason, or a co-worker, you want to report that to the hierarchies in the company, and then you expect something to be done about it. It's exactly the same with sex work. So to do this, you need access to resources. Providing sex workers with access to healthcare, education and social services enhances their ability to make choices about their lives and work. So we've talked about in America, if you declare to your insurance that you're a sex worker, you're immediately declined health insurance so that you can access health services. And they need to access them health services in order to get regular screening and stay safe and so forth. Recognising exploitation. Human trafficking. Exploitation in the form of human trafficking is a severe violation of human rights. Trafficking involves force, fraud, or coercion to compel individuals into sex work, stripping us of their autonomy and subjecting sex workers to abuse. Now, that isn't right, but you've seen a lot of that in like TV shows, especially Game of Thrones, where sex workers are just used as a piece of meat, basically, to be thrown about and to do whatever the client wants to do with them. And that shouldn't be the case. Labour exploitations. Beyond trafficking, sex workers can face various forms of labour exploitation, including unfair work wages, unfair working conditions, and lack of legal protections. Addressing these issues is crucial for ethical practices. You wouldn't accept that in a regular job. Lack of legal protections, unsafe working conditions, that will be brought up in Parliament or Congress. So it's exactly the same with sex work. Preventing exploitation. Regulation and oversight. Implementing regulatory frameworks that protect sex workers from exploitation is essential. These include licensing systems, health and safety regulations, and labour right protections. So it's just the same as in any type of day-to-day job or career. Empowerment and support. Empowering sex workers through education and advocacy helps to prevent exploitation by increasing the ability of the sex worker to advocate for their own rights and make informed choices. Ethnical consideration, stigma and discrimination, combating stigmatization of the work of sex workers contributes to migration and vulnerability. Ethnical considerations include challenges, social prejudice, and promoting our dignity and human rights. Inclusive policies, developing policies that include our voices and address our needs without discrimination is key to effective governance. So we've talked about a lot of people who do like a lot of advocacy for sex work and things like that. Respecting agency. Sex workers as stakeholders, recognising sex workers as key stakeholders in discussion about their work and rights ensures that their perspectives and experience is essential to policy development and advocacy efforts. Non-coercive support, offering support and services to sex workers in a non-coercive manner, respects our agency and acknowledges our ability to make informed decisions about our lives. And now I've got a few examples of case studies. So the first one is New Zealand, which is the Prostitution and Reform Act, but we talked about that in a previous episode. Amy isn't a particular fan of the name of the act, but it's what they call it in New Zealand. So this New Zealand's discrimination model emphasises consent, autonomy and the prevention of exploitation. The law provides legal protection for sex workers and recognises their rights to work safely and autonomously. Another example is the Netherlands. Regulated legislation. The Dutch model of regulated legislation includes measures to prevent exploitation, such as licensing and health checks. However, it also faces challenges ensuring that all of us benefit equally from the protections. And the second one is the Sweden. We've talked a lot about the Nordic model. Obviously, we've discussed that this isn't perfect and it needs to change. So Sweden approaches criminalisation. Sweden's approach, it criminalises the purchase of sex, but not the selling. So it's illegal for a client to buy sex services, but it ain't illegal for the sex worker to sell it to that client. This model aims to reduce exploitation and trafficking, but has been criticised for driving our work underground, thereby completing issues of consent and authority. The last bit in this episode now is work and relationships. How do sex workers balance relationships with their work? Now, obviously, that does come into consent, and with all sorts of work, you have to balance your relationships with that of your work, and sometimes you have to learn to keep your work and your home life separate from each other. Like I'll refer to again, Secret Diary of a Call Girl. The character played by Billie Piper. She has two characters. So when she is working as a sex worker, she's known as Belle. But when she isn't working as a sex worker. She's known as Hannah, and she has two separate wardrobes, a Hannah wardrobe and a Belle wardrobe. And she says in the first episode, on her throat, never the two shall meet. So that's an example. So how we need to explore how sex workers manage their personal relationships and the challenges they face in balancing our professional and personal lives. Sex workers face unique challenges in balancing our professional and personal lives, particularly when it comes to managing stigma, maintaining boundaries, and fostering healthy relationships. Open communication, supportive partners, and access to resources are key to navigating these complexities. Our personal stories highlight the importance of understanding, respecting self-care and creating a fulfilling and balanced life. By addressing these challenges and advocating for the rights, society can help create an environment where we can thrive both professionally and personally. Navigating personal and professional boundaries is a specific challenge for sex workers, since we must balance the complexity of our professional lives with our personal relationships. These challenges include managing stigma, maintaining honesty with partners, and protecting our emotional and physical well-being. And here's and we'll go into an in-depth exploration of how sex workers manage these aspects, because we've also got some personal stories as well. So firstly of all, you need to disclose. It's important to disclose what you do to your partners. Honesty versus privacy. Deciding whether to disclose the work's partners is a major decision for sex workers. Some choose to be open about their professions to foster trust and honesty, while others may keep it private due to fear of judgment or rejection. Timing and approach. The timing and manner of disclosure are crucial. Many sex workers find it challenging to determine when and how to share this aspect of their lives, often opting for gradual and careful conversations. Mm-hmm. And overall, this disclosure can have an impact on the relationship, sometimes negative, sometimes positive. So trust and jealousy. Trust is a fundamental aspect of any relationship. And the work of sex work can introduce complexities. Partners may experience jealousy or insecurity, requiring open communication and reassurance. Support and understanding. Supportive partners who understand and respect the nature of our work can specifically enhance the relationship. Education and open dialogue about the realities of our work can help in fostering understanding. So these are just gonna go over, because I think it's more important now to share some personal stories. So these two people, it's one's a lady and one's a guy, and they both work in the sex work industry, and they are both talking about their experiences of managing their professional life as a sex worker with managing their personal lives with family, friends, partners. So the first one is Emma. Now, Emma is a 30-year-old guest scout from Australia, and navigates the complexity of a profession while maintaining a long-term relationship. And Emma says she told her partner about her work as a sex worker on their third date. It was nerve-wracking, but I knew honesty was important. He had questions and concerns, but we talked through them together. Managing boundaries. We have so sex workers have clear boundaries, like everyone does. Your work life is your work life, and your personal life, your home life is just that. So I take time. She says she also takes time to disconnect after work and make sure to prioritize her relationship with a partner. And it's not always easy, Diane says, Emma says, but communication is key. And it's bordering on the same with David as well. So David is a male sex worker, so obviously males work in the sex industry, not just females. He's a 40-year-old sex worker in the UK, and he discusses how he also manages his professional and personal life. So stigma, society's view of our work, the work of sex workers can be harsh. And David says he's faced judgment from friends and family, which Amy has from friends and family, and in previous episodes, as discussed. It took time to find a partner who understood and respected my work. David practices a lot of self-care religiously. He practices meditation, exercises, and spending quality times with his family and friends who he loves very much. Keeping work and personal life separate helps David to stay grounded. Support, and there is also a lot of supportive networks, because peer support networks and professional support, which we've already discussed. So yeah, that concludes this series on sex work with me, Amy Taylor, and myself. I'll pass it on to Amy just to say if she's got any last words, but for myself, and I'm sure Amy as well, thank you for taking the time to tune in, and we hope you learn very much from this series.
Yeah, thank you so much for humanizing our industry. Hey, people who don't like this stuff, Butterfly Princess isn't saying she adores sex work or thinks it's the greatest thing on the earth. Nobody is. I don't think I am, and I've been in it. We're just saying these are human beings, and it's complex. And can we look at the humanity of them and their clients and their families and their loved ones? We can do better. These are people just like you. They've made choices you might not agree with, but you've made choices others don't agree with, everybody. So if we can at least come to the table and talk about it, like Butterfly Princess has agreed to do in these episodes, we can learn, and that can never be a bad thing. So thank you, Steph. I so appreciate your humanity and your curiosity about a world that maybe a lot of people judge and hate and don't understand. It all helps. And people, if you want to be an ally, I'm Amy Taylor NYC on all the socials. Contact me we talked about it in some earlier episodes, places you can be an ally if you care. And just thanks for listening. It does more than you know.
Thank you, everyone.